Happy New Year. We've stepped into 2026. We want to think out with the old and in with the new, but we cannot always leave the old behind us. Now, I'm not just talking about a bad day. I'm talking about a season of life where you looked at your circumstances and you thought, there is just no way of fixing this. If you felt that way, you know what it's like to lose hope. And hopeless, dangerous. It's like running out of gas. Without hope, we have no reason to move into the next day. In ancient Hebrew culture, people used the phrase dry bones to describe the deepest anguish of lives. It's that feeling of being cursed and no life remains in the bones. Today, we're looking at Ezekiel 37 in the Old Testament of the Bible. We're going to see a God who doesn't just patch things up. We are going to meet the God who revives his people even when hope seems entirely lost. Let's set the scene. Ezekiel is a priest turned prophet living in exile in Babylon. The worst has happened. Jerusalem is decimated, the temple is destroyed, and the people are displaced. To the Israelites, this looked like the end of their story. God takes Ezekiel in a vision and sets him down in a valley full of bones. These bones were very dry. This implies they had been dead a long time. It was a scene of total death and destruction. And then God asked Ezekiel a haunting question. Son of man, can these bones live? About that. From a human perspective, the answer is obviously no. Dead bones don't come back to life. But look at Ezekiel's reverent answer. He doesn't say yes, which would be presumptuous. And he doesn't say no, which would be unbelief. He says, Lord God, only you know. In that dead-end valley, Ezekiel spoke a word of faith. He acknowledged that only the Lord has the power to make the impossible happen. So what does God do? He does the unthinkable. First, God commands Ezekiel to prophesy to the bones. As he prophesies, there is a rattling sound. The very dry bones come together, tendons appear, flesh grows, and skin covers them. It's a miracle. But there was no breath in them. They were bodies, but they weren't alive yet. Then comes the second step. God tells Ezekiel to prophesy to the breath or the wind. When he does, breath enters them and they stand up, a vast living army. Why this two-step process? It's a direct callback to Genesis 2. Remember how God created Adam? He formed man from the dust, the physical body, and then he breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, the spirit. God is showing Ezekiel a new creation. He is taking what is dead and disconnected and recreating it. God explains clearly, I will put my spirit in you and you will live. This wasn't just about political restoration for Israel. It was about spiritual regeneration. God wanted his people to know that he is the Lord and that he alone has the power to open graves. This vision isn't just history. It's a picture of the gospel. The Bible tells us that apart from Christ, we aren't just sick or struggling. Ephesians 2 says we are dead in trespasses and sins. We are dry bones. We are unable to fix our predicament. But God, who is rich in mercy, makes us alive with Christ. Just as God breathed life into the valley of bones, Jesus conquers sin and death to bring us new life. We see previews of this in Jesus' ministry. Remember Jairus' daughter in Luke 8? She was dead, yet Jesus took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up," and her spirit returned. Or Lazarus in John 11. He was dead, and Jesus said to him, "Lazarus, come forth," and his spirit returned. Jesus does what only God can do. Ultimately, this points to Jesus' own resurrection. His followers felt hopeless on Good Friday, dejected and despairing, just like the exiles. But Jesus was raised bodily from the dead, proving that death is no match for God's power. Because he lives, we have the promise that we will be made alive, first spiritually when we trust in him, and eventually physically. Notice that God didn't just snap his fingers to raise the bones. He chose to speak through a person. He told Ezekiel to prophesy. God works in the world and speaks to his creation through people. We are ambassadors for Christ. We walk through a world filled with spiritual dry bones, people who are hopeless, cut off, and dead in their sins. We might feel like our words won't matter, but we can tell them when they feel hopeless, they can turn to God for help. Well, here's your challenge for this week. Identify one area of your life or one person in your sphere of influence that feels like a dry bones situation. Instead of despairing, I want you to pray for God's breath to enter that place. Speak the hope of the good news of Jesus into that hopelessness. God revives his people when hope seems. Let's trust him to do it again. Thanks for joining me today. God bless you.